going on here. And I say that largely because that's fun, and B, because we've been besieged all of a sudden here by I don't know, dark humor before the season starts here. Evan is obviously
gotta have some fun.
Yeah, I think we do. We do. Evan is here. Evan
Hello.
will be a part of the show from as often as he can be from start to finish to provide the news aspect and obviously provide insight as to where this team is going, what it did at practice, and his observations and such. But I feel like I got to share, number one, the last email we just got. The subject line is, I tire of this show.
This is definitely not about this show.
I think it's
because everybody loves this show.
I think it's more in referral to PU, but that's just, I don't know. If you tire of this show, you can say that. It won't offend me. Then there's another one complaining about somebody being racist in a YouTube chat. And then there's another, here's a good one, Ev. You'll love this.
Uh-oh.
Hi, guys. I have a question. If the Patriots lose all their team members in a bus crash or a plane crash, will there be time for a draft to pick new players?
Okay, just full disclosure. I am on that plane. So
wait a second.
This one hits a little too close to home.
The team obituary, you're going to be and others.
It hits a little too close to home, John. All right, let's not joke about this. As it is, like I've grown up to flying. When I was a kid, I was a nervous flyer.
Yeah, were you really?
Yeah, but now I fly so much for work that I've put my big boy pants on. I'm like, all right, you're okay. You're going to be fine, right?
Yeah.
So let's not put those ideas in my head.
Okay. No.
Like 3 days before I'm about to get on a plane.
All right, then we'll stop it right here.
Yeah.
But I just those are 3 of the first 4 emails that I've got in the hopper, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing here?
Stop.
This is the football season. It's everybody's 0-0. I realize that there aren't great expectations, let's put it that way, for this team, that we probably are still continuing to sink lower before you begin the ascension back up the ladder. And the one that kind of nailed me upside of the head, it depressed me, and then it also encouraged me at the same time, was the one and only Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio. And in his power ratings, he has the Patriots 31st out of 32 teams.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's always darkest before the dawn, right? That's the saying, and maybe we're in that darkness right now. But I will say this, and I feel like we in this town and around this town, there's so much negativity around this football team right now, and I totally understand it. I'm not trying to be good team employee here and try to sell you guys on something that isn't going to happen, but to me, you're 0-0. Like, let's see what this team looks like in a regular season football game before we bury them. Do I think that it's going to be 2001 and they're going to go on a Super Bowl run and it's going to be... No, of course not. But at the end of the day, predictions are predictions. Yep. Like, ranking them 31st ahead of the season, saying they're going to win 4 games ahead of the season. Last year, there are teams that made the playoffs, that came out of the woodwork, that weren't expected to be preseason favorites. That it happens every year. Somebody always goes from worst to first. Somebody always sneaks into the playoffs.
We're going to jump into that when Russell Baxter joins us in the second hour of the show. We always talk about worst to first possibilities.
Yeah.
Something happens like that every year.
Every year. And I'm not saying it's going to be the Patriots. I'm just saying that I'm excited and more relieved that now we can actually play some real games and see what this team looks like on the field, because right now it's all just everybody looking through a crystal ball.
It's preseason and you can't tell, and they're mostly in shorts and shells, and it's just you can't tell.
Yeah,
you can't tell. I'm ready to to have somebody smack some heads, and let's see what we got.
Yeah.
All right. So coming up on the program, we are going to jump into the Bengals preparation for this Sunday. Ben Baby covers the Bengals for ESPN.com, and Ben's going to join us in 10 minutes. We will hear from the Jacoby Brissett presser in the second or toward the second hour of the show. In case you want to stay here and continue with the conversation, we'll hear from Jacoby some snippets from his news conference. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, he is the starting quarterback. Number two, see if he has anything significant to say. Number three, it might be a short stay.
Yeah.
It might be a short stay.
For him as the starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. The one thing I'll say about this game and, about Jacoby is that he starts the season off against a really familiar opponent for him and this coaching staff. Basically, for the offensive side of the ball, for Alex Van Pelt and that staff,
Yep.
this is a divisional game. Like they played the Bengals twice a year for 4 straight years.
They ought to know this team as well as anybody, which is
Yeah.
why I think this. Look, I've got 3 questions I'm going to toss out here in just a moment. But
Yeah.
at the same time, what was the last spread? 9?
Yeah, we're at 7.5 now because of Jamar Chase's status.
It changed.
It's been moving.
Yeah, we just actually I just heard coming in that he was at practice today
Yeah.
for the Bengals. So, okay, fine. Shaves a point and a half. It doesn't matter. So 7.5. Is that what we're saying right now?
That was what it was as of last night when I checked it.
Okay, so 7.5. I still think the Patriots have a shot to cover that.
Yeah, I do too. There are a lot of trends that favor the Patriots being competitive in this game. I mentioned Alex Van Pelt's history against this Cincinnati team. The Browns, with Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator, were 5-1 against Joe Burrow in the regular season during Kevin Stefanski's current ongoing run, but the last 4 years with Kevin Stefanski. Now, Joe Burrow is healthy. That's different from past years in week 1s where he's coming off injuries or had limited issues in camp or whatever. But in week 1s, Joe Burrow is 1-3 in his career. And the Bengals in the month of September have notoriously been slow starters.
How about they are 1-4 in their last 5 season openers at home?
Yeah, so they're a team that likes to peak late. They sort of build up to it, and then they peak late, and then they go on these playoff runs, and that's how they've kind of done it.
They're also 1-4 against the spread in their season opener at home.
Yeah, if there's one time where fluky things can happen where it is very crystal clear that the Bengals have more roster talent than the Patriots. No one's going to deny that. If there's 1 week of the season where some crazy stuff can happen, it's week 1.
Week 1.
So that if you want to look at this game now, with all that being said, if the Patriots offense comes out next week or Sunday and scores 30 points and they win an upset against the Bengals, I'm probably going to come on the show on next Tuesday and say,
whoa. Hang on.
This might be an anomaly. This was a good, nice matchup.
30 points for the first 6 weeks might be an anomaly.
Right.
Yes,
This is a nice matchup for Van Pelt. He knew the defense. He knew the scheme. He knew what he was going up against. Let's see what it looks like against some unfamiliar opponents before we overreact.
Yeah. So Ben joined us here in about 10 minutes, and then Jacoby Brissett's news conference, and then Russell Baxter, the one and only pro football guru himself, will join us at 4 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll run through the entire week 1 of the NFL schedule, which will also include the New England Patriots. In the meantime, I've got 3 questions I want to toss out at you. I want to toss them out at Evan, and I want everybody to take part here. So pick up the phone and let's go. 855-PATS-500. Toll free, 855-PATS-500. You can hit the email, webradio@patriots.com, or hit me up on Twitter at x.com, whatever you prefer. At JR Broadcaster is the handle there. But I like to go 3 questions every so often because, quite frankly, it's really not about wins and losses, even though it is about wins and losses. Number 1, are you giving or taking the Pats plus? I have it at +9. So let's shorten it. Let's go to +7.5, 7.5 against the Bengals on Sunday. You taking or giving the 7.5? That's number 1. Number 2, who's the most important player for the Patriots this season? Not most valuable, not the best, most talented. Who's the most important player, in your estimation, for the Patriots this season? And number 3, and I got this one from Local Talk Radio, but I thought it was a great question, so I'm going to share it here with the Patriots, based audience, all right? What comes first this year? The Patriots get to 4 wins, or Bailey Zappe throws a touchdown for Kansas City?
Oh, man. That is a talk radio one.
It is, right? It is. But I said, you know what? I kind of like that question, so I'm stealing it.
Okay.
They steal our stuff all the time. Hell, Channel 4 here in Boston stole my first down to name one of their stupid shows.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Did I get any credit for it? No. Did I get any remuneration for it? No.
That's the way the world works.
It's
sometimes.
fair game. It's fair game.
Tough.
I at least said, hey, you know what? It's a byproduct of talk radio.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Can I start with number 2?
go.
So the second question is who's the most important player, right?
Yeah.
The obvious answer is Drake May, right? And whenever he gets on the field and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to go with Ramondre because as much as it might pain me that they want to be this establish the run, tough football team, control the line of scrimmage, schematically, everything that they want to do offensively builds off a productive run game. They want to be able to run the ball. They want to play action off the run game, and everything only works if they have some semblance of a run game. And if you combine their issues with the offensive line with that, you start to worry about the puzzle pieces fully fitting together. If Ramondre has a good year and he's running the ball well, maybe like he was in 2022, just to put like some parameters on it, then everything else branches sort of off of that in this offensive system, and they should be able to manufacture some yards that way. Run the ball, just kind of set up the play action plays and make those plays down the field. If they're an offense that's in 3rd and 8 and they have to spread the field and they have to make plays and things, it's going to be a long year. Because I don't know if they have the horses to be able to do that sort of thing, like the Bengals do. The Bengals spread the field, they're 3 receiver, they're Burrow in the gun, and let's play, right? Let's roll the ball out. The Patriots are going to have to dress it up. They're going to have to scheme it up. They're going to have to be more creative. And I feel like the run game, it all starts there with Ramondre.
Okay. I'll give you mine as we tackle these topics, and then we'll repeat them for a little bit later, so that way we can get others to contribute here to the unofficial polling, as the case may be. Most important player this season, to me, isn't the most valuable. We're not even 100% sure he's going to be a starter, but I would tell you, based on what we think we know right now, my most important player is Jaylen Polk, and I'll tell you why. Just the mere presence of a threat on offense could open things up for a guy like Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
Could help a guy like Jacoby Brissett keep his starting job for longer than 4 weeks, which, give or take, is about what we think he'll get. And if the Patriots are 1-3 or 0-4, the door's going to be opened up for a guy named Drake May to take over. I think we can all probably admit to that. And if he can truly beat his man regularly, one-on-one, big plays can happen. And the one thing this offense certainly did not have last year was the ability to be explosive. If that explosiveness returns to the offense and helps set up the other things like play action, like some other things, then to me the Patriots can be competitive. I don't know that they get to 6, 7, 8 wins. I don't know that that's possible, but I would tell you that I think that they're in way more mini games than we're thinking right now that they may be.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I look at that play from Drake May to Jaylen Polk in the Washington preseason finale, and
hold on to the ball.
That crossing route right there, that's Jaylen Polk. Like that, if you asked Elliot Wolf on the day after the draft in May, put up one play on the screen that you vision Drake May and Jaylen Polk running together.
Yep.
Like, this is the duo, and this is what we're going to do. It would have been that play against Washington. Mm-hmm. Like, that's Drake May's bread and butter. It's Jaylen Polk's bread and butter, and the marries together. Like I said earlier about the play action and the run game and everything branching off of that, the other part of that is that it does invite a lot of one-on-one opportunities for the receivers on the outside, because teams will put that extra hat in the box. They'll play one safety up top, and you should get some man coverage on the outside. If Jaylen Polk can be one of those guys that can beat man coverage consistently, then they're going to be in better shape than we think they are.
No question.
No, regardless of really who's under center, who's at quarterback. It doesn't necessarily matter at that point.
No question about it. All right, you want to tackle the other 2 questions really quickly? All
sure.
right, let's go back to number 1. Giving or taking the Pats plus 7.5 against Cincinnati.
So I just checked it, and because Chase is at practice, we've moved back to 8.5. So we're talking about between 7 and 9 is where
between
we're
7
at.
and all right. Well, then let's go with what it is right now at Showtime. 8.5.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you taking, or what are you giving?
I'm taking the Bengals, but I'm taking the Patriots to cover.
Okay.
I really do feel like this is a closer game. In 2022, it was 22-18 Bengals here, and against the Patriots. Defense is changed, but the scheme and everything is going to be more or less the same from the Patriots on that side of the ball. And then I mentioned earlier that Brissett beat this Bengals team pretty handily in Cleveland a couple years ago. So I still think the Bengals win, because eventually the talent will just kind of wind out and probably make more plays in the fourth quarter and like that sort of thing. But I like the Patriots to hang in there.
All right, and the other question, which comes first, Pats to 4 wins, or Zappe throws a TD pass for Kansas City?
I'm going Pats to 4 wins because I don't think Bailey Zappe sees the field. It's not because I'm confident in the Patriots. It's because I know that Bailey Zappe's not playing.
I know, and again, I'm going to give full credit of that one to Scott Zolak and Mark Bertrand. But it made me laugh when I heard it. And so I said, I'm going to steal that one from those guys today and see what anybody else happens to think. I would agree with you on that one. I'm going to go with the Patriots to 4 wins before Zappe throws the TD. And I'm also taking the Pats and the points.
Yep.
I think Cincinnati wins the game, but I'm going to take the Pats and the points to make it interesting, largely because Cincinnati has historically, as we talked about, struggled to at least begin a season. To that end, we're going to jump into the Bengals a little bit more, and Ben Baby, who covers the Bengals for ESPN and ESPN.com, he joins us here in the playbook. Hey, Ben, it's John and Evan here in Foxborough. How's it going?
It's good. I just want to say I love the Bailey Zappe talk. I'm a Texas guy. I covered high school ball. I don't think people understand how ridiculous it is that a guy who played his college ball at Houston Baptist was getting NFL reps and playing in the league. So I've enjoyed it. It's a shame that it hasn't worked out any better, but I think the fact that he even did what he did, I am still flabbergasted by it.
Ben, I tell you that, I'm in agreement with you there because here's a guy who was 4-4 as a starter here in New England. And he had to fall on the sword, for lack of a better phrase, over what happened over Mac Jones and everything else here in the recent past. And I think he did a representative job. It's just unfortunate that he was a part of a regime that was kind of ushered out the door so they could kind of flip the page on a lot of things. And I just don't think it was the right place, right time for him here.
Yeah, it's part of being in the league. But, I think, it goes to show how hard it is to make it. And, we'll see what we see here on Sunday. Obviously, the Bengals know it's going to be a new regime with Gerard Mayo. And it's interesting in talking to the guys, the Bengals, they're big favorites going into this game. They've got Kansas City in week 2. But, I talked to B.J. Hill, their defensive tackle, last week, and they understand that they still cannot take the Patriots lightly, given what the teams look like on paper and given all the fluidity with this team. They understand that they've got to be locked in. Otherwise, they may be staring down the barrel of 0-1 if they don't, do what they need to do on Sunday.
All right, let's start right at the top of the list then. Jamar Chase was at practice today, is my understanding. What's his latest status, or at least that you can share with us?
Yeah, right now we saw him out there during individual drills. They are currently in practice right now. They'll wrap up here in about 20 minutes, and we'll speak to Joe Burrow and see how Jamar looked. And, the whole time throughout all of this, it's been a very fluid situation. And so, to be honest, I was not expecting Jamar to be out there today. I think that caught a lot of us off guard, and they've kind of kept the window open for him to be out there. And they've kind of tried to maintain that relationship as best as possible amid the contract dispute. And I think it speaks volumes that, he's practicing right now, given where things have stood all summer, because he did not participate in training camp. And then as soon as the Bengals said that they thought he'd practice for an entire week, he immediately shut it down. So, I think for him, we'll see how this continues to play out through the week. But as of now, this is definitely trending better than it was even 12 hours ago.
Yeah, I was just going to say, clearly without, a ton of, organized, practice and things that he's had over the course of the year, how much can rust play a factor here early as to his effectiveness? You know him as perhaps as well as anybody there, and I'm just kind of curious what your viewpoint might be on Jamar basically coming in cold.
They haven't really said, there hasn't been any indication that I've gotten that they're concerned about that. I think with how much he's worked over the course of the offseason, the kind of shape he's been in, Zach Taylor's been adamant about that. We asked Bengals' new offensive coordinator, Dan Pitcher, about that, and he indicated that there was no threshold that they needed him to or this week in order for them to feel good about putting him out there on the field. They said they're just going to take it, day by day and see as it goes. And for how well Jamar has been, even though he hasn't been practicing, has been involved, in meetings, been attentive, been out there on the field throughout much of training camp, just basically being an extra coach. All of those things do play a part in, he's obviously keeping himself in shape should he need to be out there. So I don't think that there's a concern right now about any rust, but obviously that might change because, being in physical shape and game shape, those are two different things.
Where do you feel like the major question marks are for this team? I know they don't seem to be, at least to the untrained eye, terribly far away from being that championship level caliber team again, because we know they've got talent up and down this roster. What's the biggest need, and what do Bengals fans expect of this team, at least initially? What's the expectation?
I think looking at their schedule, this team can be, an 11, 12-win team. They're going to be playing a last-place schedule. They're going to have a healthy Joe Burrow back. Your defense should be significantly improved from what it was a year ago, especially when you look at the additions of safety Von Bell, who came back, and Sheldon Rankins, who should give them interior push at defensive tackle. I think the big question mark is how good are they going to be against the run. It's something that they struggled with, and they lost their best defensive tackle in DJ Reader in terms of stopping the run, and they swapped him out with Rankins, who's known more for his pass rushing ability. But I think the fact that the addition of Von Bell, getting him back, it was to the point when Carolina released him after his one season there. Joe Burrow immediately texted him and said, "Hey, are you coming back here?" Because Burrow knew how much he meant, and everybody on that defensive side of the ball talk about how much the communication has improved. And even when it comes to things like fitting run gaps, the backers are in much better position because the communication is that much better with Bell in there. So this team can definitely go out and be better than it was a year ago. And, I think the big question is going to be, how does Joe Burrow look coming off that wrist injury? Everybody internally feels pretty good about where he's at. And so we'll continue to monitor that. But I think there's going to be, we talked about rust with Jamar. I think the rust for Joe, and then when he gets hit for the first time, that's going to really be interesting to see how he handles that and how he proceeds, because that's one thing that's been left unchecked throughout his recovery process.
Ben, I wanted to ask you about Burrow, because we were just talking about some of the week one trends for this team, but he's always been coming off of camp injuries and things like that. I know the wrist is still kind of a question mark, but he's been healthy this time around, right? And that's kind of a different vibe there.
Yeah, and every time I've checked in with him throughout the course of the offseason, he's always indicated that the wrist feels good. He feels like he's been throwing the ball well. And so, and the coaching staff has talked about that today as well. We just spoke to Dan Pitcher a little while ago, and he said it's nice to not have to worry about any physical ailments that are preventing Burrow from being at full capacity, and they can just focus on beating the Patriots, which is hard enough, what he said. So I think that there is that understanding that now this is the best he's felt probably in quite some time, but we'll continue to see how he looks. Can he push the ball downfield? How does he handle when the pocket collapses? Those are all things that I think you just don't know until you get to game day.
Yeah, and with Pitcher, do you expect any real schematic tweaks or anything? I know it's kind of Zach Taylor's offense, but do you expect any sort of twists now that they have a new offensive coordinator?
I think one of the more outstanding questions I have is that, what personnel-wise are they going to maybe lean into more two tight end packages? And that's the sense when you look at it that they seem to want to do that a little bit more. Are they going to be under center a little bit more? They brought in Justin Riscotti as their pass game coordinator, and one of the big things that was talked about was that he'd help marry the run and the pass game up well, so that way they look similar enough that you can keep defenses off balance and you can probably be more multiple than they've been. And so I think all of those things are going to be schematic things to watch. And then the other thing is that running back, but they do not have a guy who is going to be basically only slotted in for first and second down like Joe Mixon was. And so you're going to see Zach Moss and Chase Brown maybe split those reps, and they'll be more versatile in the backfield, which should help them and keep defense from keying in on them, which is, I think, something they've had an issue with over the years.
Notice that when you said, for the possibility of a two tight end, set or formation a little bit more often, there's a former Patriot at tight end that could figure into that, and Mike Gesicki, and there's a couple expats on the offensive line as well. Trent Brown's there. Ted Karras is there, who's starting at center. How are those guys kind of fitting into the equation? And it looks to me like they've got pretty important roles.
Yeah, well, they definitely do. Gesicki, he's going to be that number 2 tight end, maybe the number 1 tight end, depending on the package that they put out there. But Trent Brown, he's been the guy who is kind of surprising as to how well he's done. He'll be starting at right tackle with Amarius Mims, their first-round pick this year, still recovering from an injury. Had Mims stayed healthy, he probably would have been the Week 1 starter. But so far, everybody's been impressed with Brown. They feel like he's in good game shape, and they feel like he's going to be a good presence for them for the time being. And we'll see if that changes. But I think for them, it underscored how important it was to go get better depth at tackle. It gave them not only the flexibility in the draft to go get Mims, or if another player fell to them where they were at, but now with Mims suffering, I believe, a strained pectoral, if I remember correctly, now it gives them the freedom to work him in and not rush him back. And we saw him in jersey in uniform today at practice. And so, we'll see how long Trent Brown's going to be the starter, but he'll at least get a crack at his former club on Sunday.
before I let you go, because I know you got to get to practice yourself with some interviews, but if you were working against the Bengals defense, what area of that team would you attack? Would you attack them on the ground? Would you go through the air? Short game, long game? Where do you think they're vulnerable?
Yeah, I think you want to try to test that run defense and see what you can get. If I'm the Patriots, I want to shorten this game as much as possible.
Right.
You go look at it. If you can run the clock, win that time. And as a native Texan, I hate running the ball at a significant amount. I hate running the clock. But in this case, you got to be strategic about it. And I think that would be, the Patriots' best plan to success. And then see if you can soften them up on the ground and take your shots with deep balls. And see what Dax Hill looks like at outside corner. He's a guy that moved from free safety, won a very tight battle in training camp to be that starting outside corner opposite Kendall and Britt. I would test him early and see what you can get, but I think that's going to be New England's best chance to move the ball and get points offensively.
Now, you're certainly a Texan of a certain age, because maybe your generation like to wing the ball. See, my generation, because I'm a Texan of a certain age as well, I ran the wishbone, so I like the running game.
Yeah, see, the thing is, we don't have tight ends anymore in the great state of Texas. They get moved out to edge rushing, so that's how that goes.
I got it.
Love
Hey, Ben, appreciate the time today. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ben.
I appreciate y'all.
You got it. All right, that's Ben Baby, at BEN_BABY.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, Ben, that's real easy. He covers the Bengals for ESPN.com, and you can follow him this week to get any kind of pregame stuff. I thought it was interesting that, honestly, and I think even more of a reason to think that, the Patriots might hang here, at least for a little bit. Again, not saying they're going to win the game. I don't think they will. But that's the Achilles heel right now, is the Bengals' run defense. And so the Patriots, we know, and Gerard has said this, they want to try to establish the ground game. They want to run the football. They want to make the game, not only easier for Jacoby or whoever, but they want to shorten the game, and I think that's the perfect scenario here for the week. If the Patriots can keep from self-inflicted wounds, and hopefully some of those, 10 offensive line penalties from Washington don't rub over a couple of weeks, and then hold on to the football, you might have a game with a chance to steal something in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I really felt like that when I watched the Bengals game against the Browns a couple years ago. The Browns ran the ball 44 times in that game. Now, some of it was late, up big, and they kind of were running out the clock late in the fourth quarter, but still it was a big part of what they did in that game, and they were able to expose the Bengals' run defense a little bit. And you feel like a lot of these teams, these contenders like the Bengals, they're built to stop the pass because they know they're going to go in the playoffs and they're going to go up against Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and all these great quarterbacks. So they're worried more about when we get into the AFC Championship game, are we going to be able to stop Mahomes, right? And not so much worried about the running game of the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's how these teams are built. And if you're a team like the Patriots, where you just have to look for it and then possibly expose a weakness, that would be it. I thought he mentioned, and this was something that dawned on me when I was looking at their depth charts and things like that, no more DJ Reader in the middle of that defense. He's a really effective player, probably their best run defender over the last couple of years. So that's the part where you want to see the Patriots maybe try to expose it, and we'll see what happens. But, 44 rushes for I think like 170 yards in that game a couple years ago for the Browns. So they have the ability to run the ball.
I think you'll see the Patriots' game plan probably have quite a bit of that. Now, the question is, can this Patriots offensive line open holds up for guys like Ramondre Stevens to run through?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's why I brought up Ramondre earlier in the show, because it's the biggest question mark to me is Gerard Mayo talking this morning about controlling the line of scrimmage. Yeah. Can they even do that? If you're going to run the ball as much as we want to, to make it about the backs and Chubb and Ramondre and, all these big name free fantasy football guys, really at the end of the day, the Browns were able to run the ball a couple of years ago because they had a good offensive line, and the Patriots don't. And that's why, to me, it's the most important element. It's the wild card of this season offensively, because everything does get easier in this system in particular if you do have a threat of a running game.
Couple of quick reminders, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. And it's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. 3 questions again. 3 questions again, if you're just tuned in or you just jumped on late here on the website, that we want you to kind of address. I'm not looking, so if you want to offer a score prediction, and those of you that have, followed the show and listened to it for a long time, we always used to take score predictions, and it almost seems a little superfluous right now until we can establish what kind of a team and what kind of a regime this is really going to be, in Patriots, shall we say, 2.0. But I got 3 questions that I do want you to answer, and I think could very well, with an accurate answer, provide some real insight as to, the performance for this team this year, because that's what we're all looking for right now. We're all looking for some kind of an answer as to what kind of a team this is going to be. Number 1, are you giving or taking the Pats plus 8.5 against Cincinnati this Sunday? All right, that's number 1. Number 2, who's the most important player on the roster for New England this season? Not most valuable, not most athletic, not fastest, not slowest, not strongest. The most important player, in your estimation, for the Patriots this season. And number 3, which comes first? The Patriots to 4 wins, or Bailey Zappe throws a touchdown for Kansas City? 855-PATS-500. Toll-free number, 855-PATS-500. You can also hit me up, web radio at patriots.com on email. I've got some that I'll get to here. And you can also, tweet out, post your comments on Twitter. I'm at JR Broadcaster. That's the follow here. You want to take a couple of questions?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's start with Patty and Agawam. Patty, yo, what's up, baby?
What's up, John? It's finally here.
I'm glad it is. I'm glad it is. I was kind of dreading this day, to be quite honest with you. I was talking about this with Evan before we started the show today. I'm kind of like, I can't remember a season in recent memory where I really just I'm not looking forward to football. It's because we're anticipating the worst. So I've really struggled trying to come up with the positivity here that I think we all need to kind of embrace here. And let's see what this team might be able to do. Look, they might go 4-13 again. They might go 2-15. We don't know. We don't know. But here's the thing. I'm okay with 4-13 again if I see competitiveness, if I see games decided by one score or one possession or one mistake here or there, or I'm okay with that, because then I think I can see that that the team is laying a foundation of some kind here, where hopefully with the extra cap space they have for next year, shout out to cap space, you can build on this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Patty?
And I want to see progress, too.
Well, of course, we all want to see
progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll go in reverse order with the questions. I'm not sure either is going to happen this year, but if I had to pick one, I'll pick the Patriots win 4 games before Bailey Zappe throws for a touchdown pass. The second question was, who's the most important player on the Patriots this year, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so Evan stole my answer, my first answer, and then you stole my second answer.
Come on! But they were both offensive, right? Or I should say...
They were both offensive guys.
Yeah, they're both offensive guys, right. Okay.
But you know what? I'll go
Not
with
offensive
Gonzalez.
answers.
I think if Gonzalez plays like we all think he can play, and he can be that lockdown number 1 corner, that will at least take maybe a little bit of pressure off them trying to rush the passer or get sacks. And it'll probably allow them to play the defense that, Covington and Mayo have been running for the past few years since they've been assistant coaches with the Patriots. So if you guys stole my first 2, I'll go with Christian Gonzalez.
Well, I think that's a good pick. If you really believe strongly that it's one of those first 2 guys we talked about, that's fine. You can jump on that bandwagon. Got no issue with that, because, again, I think everybody's point of view is going to be somewhat different, but then again, it's all going to be the same, because we know how much this team has to go to get back up to where they've been accustomed to being over the last 2 decades plus now. And even last year, as this team struggled with 4-13, we knew it was going to be a long road back this year, especially when all the changes happened. Yeah. And then on top of that, let's add a little bit more misery to the heap and really attack the offensive line at all in the offseason. And I know they said, well, the guys we were looking for, yada, yada, whatever. Look, if you can't protect your assets, and by that I mean Drake May, why are you taking an asset like Drake May? I realize it's a little like putting the cart before the horse, but exactly that's what we're doing here. We're at least putting a cart in front of the horse at quarterback, and they didn't really take advantage of that. Now, I actually was very intrigued by the move this week they made to the practice squad of the kid that's 6'9" from Green Bay.
Oh yeah, they just signed to the practice squad.
Yeah, he is a Trent Brown twin in terms of his size. I don't know about anything about his ability because he only played 1 year, and last year for the Packers he only played I think a couple of games. So I'm not really certain, but I'm intrigued by that size to the point where, hell, anything's better than a swinging gate, and that's kind of what we've seen at some over on the left side. So let's
Caleb Jones.
Thank you. So yeah, but I saw a picture of him in a parade. Someone put this out on social media earlier, and you might be able to find it. There was a parade that he was in, I guess a Titletown area parade, and he's walking behind another Packer who's on a bicycle with a little kid. And, oh, my God, there's a huge shadow being cast over everybody there. I mean, this guy is huge. And so, like Al McGuire used to say about basketball, you can't coach height.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see if this guy's got any ability at all. And frankly, if there's a swinging gate, it should be on, coming from the sideline and allowing different guys to open that door and play that position until they find someone who can play it.
Yeah, Caleb Jones, I just saw him in the locker room for the first time. He's not quite as, how do I say this politely, he's not quite as wide as Trent Brown, but similar type of size, like in terms of height and just sheer size of human. We'll see how that looks. Vederian Lowe's not been practicing much last couple weeks. He had the oblique, and he's been on the the comeback there with an injury. But I actually thought that he was fine. Like I know people they all get mad when I say that hasn't been terrible, right? Hasn't been terrible. Let me put it to you that way. I think that's the best way to put it.
I got to disagree with you. I have to disagree with you. I think the fact that they have, Vederian Lowe, and with all due respect, because he seems like a nice enough guy, he can't play the position. He can't do what they need him to do.
What, like, based off of what, though? Like, what was it?
He gets whipped at the point of attack.
So he got beat on a sack where the running back chipped. He didn't anticipate the chip, and he gets beat. So
you got to have this, though.
But that was 2.5 quarters into the game. Like, I understand it. I just feel like, as somebody that watches every single play again, like you start to, with people like offensive, you realize that sometimes you get beat on the offensive line like that. It's just going to happen.
It's not 100% foolproof. I understand that. Good Lord. Believe it or not, when I was a little fat kid, I played offensive line. I didn't play it very long, that's for sure. But I understand, what the object is to do there. And, first of all, you got to be a lot smarter than people give you credit for.
Yep.
That's number one, because there are a lot of different reads and a lot of different things that you can do. There are a lot of techniques, I think, that offensive linemen can use with their arms and their hands, especially nowadays as the sport has gotten more modernized and plays with, 5 wides and things like that I'm not sure yet that I see. I wouldn't know how to do it, but I'm just telling you, I don't see the variance in some of the things. And number 3, if he's so worried about protecting the blind side of his quarterback, can he block straight ahead, or can he create a crease for a running back to get through? I mean, we know that the Patriots want to, at least we think we know at this stage, want to emphasize a little more zone running this year as opposed to other previous years when it's basically been straight ahead and and get creases and let the running backs go. But this will be more like what the Broncos have done for years in trying to create zones and lanes. And unless you're able to hold your block or get in the way of somebody to keep that zone open, your guy's going to get flattened. I just don't have the utmost confidence in that.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, I'm not trying to tell you Vederian loves Joe Thomas, right? Like, he's not a great option. But out of the options that they have, which, again, are not great, I think he's been the best out of all of them at that position. Like, Chooks is probably a better right tackle than he is a left tackle. The hope is that Vederian Lowe at least can tread water until a guy like Caden Wallace most likely is ready. Now, to Patty's other point, because I know I defend Vederian Lowe. Everybody says, how could he defend that bum, yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to tell you that they don't have very many good options, right? And out of the S sandwich that they currently have at that position, he's the one that tastes the best. Like, that's all I'm trying to tell you, okay? I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that he's, Anthony Munoz. Okay, like I'm not trying to sit here and say
no,
he's
no,
Orlando
I get
Pace.
it. I get it. I
but
get it. I get it.
He's what they got.
I get it.
He's got what they got, right? And just this point about Christian Gonzalez, and then I have to go to Jacoby Brissett's press conference here in a minute. But I think it's a really good point because based off of the things that we've heard from Mayo and Covington, I do think they want to be more aggressive than they have been the last couple years on defense, mainly because last year the turnovers dried up. They were playing a lot of soft zone coverage, 4-man rush, that kind of thing, and they weren't turning the ball over a ton defensively. If you don't have a great offense...
And Evan, kudos to you on PU today, too, picking Chooks as your week one most important player. I thought that was a really good pick.
And they'll start him at left tackle, won't they?
Yes, so he's going to start
at left.
Yeah, because Vederian Lowe is not going to be healthy, so he's going to start at left. But just to go back to Gonzo real quick, they want to be more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. They don't want to be this, we're going to sit back in soft zone and bend don't break. Like they have to turn the ball over and set the offense up on shorter fields. And I feel like they know that. So in order to do that, you are not going to be able to have 7 guys in the back end all the time. You're not going to be able to drop 7 guys into coverage all the time. So Gonzo's got to be Stephon Gilmore light, and he's got to be able to take a T. Higgins one-on-one for the entire game, or take, next week DK Metcalf for an entire game. Because if they have to start committing more resources to the back end because they can't cover, then
you're in trouble.
Then you don't have a pass rush, right? Yeah. So that's a big thing for them defensively this year. If I had to say, we have all this great data of all the teams that the Patriots have had over the years. Go back to the 18-19 Patriots, where they were really aggressive and they came after quarterbacks and they're running amoeba defenses and cover zeros and all this kind of stuff.
If we get to it, I'd love to see it again.
The catch is that they had Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore, and they had other really good corners behind him too that could cover man-to-man down the field. If Gonzalez can be that, if Jonathan Jones can be that, if Marcus Jones can be that, and maybe they can get back to that and start dictating terms to offenses versus just kind of don't burn us, right?
Yeah. Can I tell you that maybe another candidate for most important player might be Christian Barmore?
Yeah, he was in the locker room today. It was good to see him. It's the first time that I've seen him in person since the blood clot situation came up. And he's in good spirits, but he's frustrated. You can tell, he's pissed off that he's not able to be out there.
Jacoby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I got to get going. But on that note, Vederian Lowe's not terrible. Okay? I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he's not awful. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Put me to sleep on that one.
All right, John.
All right.
I'll give you
go.
I'll give you the answer to the last
Thanks,
question, and I'll get off the line so you can grab someone else.
No worries,
I'll take the
Patty.
points out.
No worries. You all day, baby. You all day.
I'll take the points. I'll take them outright.
Okay.
Patriots win 23-21.
Ooh.
And
Well, I will call you out. I will definitely call you out on next week's show if that happens. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like we're gonna get a little bit of fool's gold because I don't want to say I kind of put the bug in Evan's ear, but I kind of put the bug in Evan and Alex's ear about when the schedule first came out. I said, week one is sneaky winnable because the Bengals in the Joe Burrow era do not start out good.
Yep.
Regardless of whether he's healthy or not, and the one offense that's given the Cincinnati team a lot of problems has been the offensive style that we're going to be running this year. So we'll see what happens. That being said, I'm always excited start of the season, regardless of how good or how crappy I think my team's going to be, and I'll do my best to watch every down, but I'm excited regardless.
Wait. So you mean there will be downs that are going to be impending doom, and you look away from the television set? Is that what you do?
No, I'm usually cooking, or my 2 little girls, my twins, my youngest kids will usually come in and say, "Why are you watching football, Dad? It's so boring,"
Oh,
So
okay, I get it. So what? But what's on the menu? What's on the menu though?
I'm not sure what I'm making this week, but usually it's once the weather gets cooler, it's chilies, soups, stews.
Yeah.
I do it up, John.
Okay.
I do up breakfast every Sunday during the football season, and I usually make a nice dinner every Sunday during the football season too.
All right, Maureen and I are coming over.
All right. You got it. You guys got the invite, both of y'all.
Thanks, Patty. Appreciate you, brother. All right, Patty and Agawam. 855-PATS-500. Yeah, we mentioned earlier in the show that the Bengals have lost 4 of their last 5 home season openers. And they've also failed to cover 4 of their last 5 seasonal home openers. So, yeah, slow starts are in the Cincinnati Bengal DNA. Now, that was, before now. What does this team do differently? Just like we don't know what the Patriots will do differently. But I can tell you that there is an opportunity there, okay, for the Patriots to not only keep this close, but to make something happen for themselves and maybe for the team and cause a few eyebrows to be raised across the NFL. I absolutely was floored when I saw that, PFT had the Patriots rated 31st out of 32 teams. I never thought I would ever see that again. And I know it's PFT, okay. But I respect Mike Florio because you're talking about somebody who definitely has, worked it from the ground up. And, you don't have to agree with him to appreciate, what he's been able to, create for himself. But I thought we were by those days. I thought we were by that time and that era. And, we talked a little about this last week, whether or not, I was talking about how I'd heard on a local talk show here, as long as we brought in local talk radio to the equation today, that someone asked the question of whether or not we had returned to the pre-Bill Parcells era. And I'm like, well, no, there's no way that they've done that because the pre-Bill Parcells era didn't have the history that it could fall back on to be proud of. You're talking about a franchise now that has 6 Super Bowl championships, and there's only one other team in the entire NFL that has that many, and that's Pittsburgh. So the Patriots have an extraordinary history, especially when we consider it's all come about over the last, 20 to 24 years. And that's why we often refer, and for those that are listening or, you're fans of other teams, look, this isn't a pat yourself on the back. This is an acknowledgement that what the Patriots accomplished over 20-plus years just might not be accomplished again in your lifetime or my lifetime or anybody else's lifetime, just because of the way that the sport has evolved and is still evolving. I mean, give that some thought. We're moving very quickly now. We're already to a 17-game regular season. Do you think somebody conceivably could go 20-0? Right? You'd have to go 17. I mean, when the Patriots went 16-0 and then won a couple of playoff games and then lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl, right? So they were trying to go 19-0. They didn't make it. But now you got to go 20-0 if you're going to run the perfect table. I honestly believe there are a lot of records that are out there that you would consider unbreakable. This is a great water cooler discussion, right? This is a great debate, and so entertain this one. But what is an unbreakable record? Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak in baseball, right? Well, I'll put this one right up there. An NFL team going 20-0. It ain't happening. It's not going to happen. Just like, the hitting streak and probably Barry Bonds' home run record, even though we know that was somewhat, chemically fueled. I don't see anybody going 20-0. I think it'd be too hard. I think the season's too long. I think there's too much parity in the league. I just don't think it happens. I don't think it happens. The Patriots got as close as anybody's going to get. My thoughts. Is there another unbreakable out there? Hey, I'd love to hear from you. 855-PATS-500. Still have 3 questions to answer. Are you giving or taking the Pats an 8.5 against Cincinnati this Sunday? Who's the most important player on the Patriots roster this season, active or otherwise? Which comes first? Patriots get to 4 wins or Bailey Zappe throws a touchdown for Kansas City? Here's our boy Todd in North Carolina. Todd, good to hear from you, my friend.
Haven't heard from you in a long time, John. It's good to hear from you.
I didn't do that. I did not do that. He just.
I'm not even messing with Todd either. I did not do that.
Todd, we didn't do that. My hands are off the buttons, so I don't know if he just hit a button or lost the feed or I'm very sorry, Todd. I'm very, very sorry that transpired. If you call right back, we'll get you right back on. It's very, very simple. But it was actually good to hear from Todd.
While we wait for Todd, I have the snippets opened up if you want to play one or two.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so I mentioned off the top, this is a great idea. So I mentioned off the top of the show that, Marine has been very creative, in the recent offseason, trying to come up with, some modern stuff with lyrics and music and, rock and country and Western and maybe a little rap thrown in. And we're trying to speak to the people. Right? Isn't that what we're trying to do?
That's what we're trying to do.
We're trying to speak to the people. So he has been extraordinarily creative in these show opens, for lack of a better phrase. It's the first, opening tune that you hear when we sign on with the playbook, every Wednesday now, throughout the course of the next, 18, 19, 20 weeks. As long as we're here, this is how we'll open the show. And we want you to decide which one is your favorite. We're going to put them up online. You're going to vote on Twitter, right? Or X. You're going to place your vote. We're going to do, Twitter poll, and you're going to get a chance to vote on your favorite. I already know what my favorite is. Ms. Robin already knows what her favorite is, but we want you to decide as well. These are all going to go live tonight at midnight Eastern time, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, but we're going to give you a little sneak peek here. All right, roll it, Matt.
So these, just FYI, these are just snippets. I don't want to release the full song, so these are going to be 5 to 7 seconds each.
Got it. Go. Okay, all right. Yeah.
That was my Elvis one.
That's your Elvis one. Okay, all right. So you got an Elvis one. What's next? Country?
I can do the country next.
Okay, country. Go.
That was not
That's
it.
not
Sorry.
country. That sounds pretty...
It's Patriots Playbook, la la la.
Oh, damn.
The good stuff right now. Can't give you all the good stuff now.
I know. Okay, all right. All right, what's next then? Was that a little Eurythmics I heard? Was that a little rock and roll?
This one is the classic rock one, which is pretty good.
Classic rock. Roll.
It's Patriots Playbook.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Patriots Playbook, the legends are born. Genre brings the heat, rain or storm.
That's the one that made me laugh my you-know-what off.
You do bring the heat.
I've never had a ballad sung about me, and I never will. Don't vote for that one. Because I won't be able to stop laughing the first 5 minutes of the show.
You know you want your own theme song.
No, I don't. Oh, that one's hysterical. Oh, that one brought tears to my eyes. First time I heard it, Robin said, I don't like that one too much. How many is that? Was that 4? You have the other ones?
This is the one I played before. It stopped up.
Okay.
Patriots Playbook, the legends are born. Genre brings the heat, rain or storm.
Okay. That's passable. It's got a good beat, right?
And then the last one was just, I always had to throw a rap one in because you know me and rap.
Go
From
for it.
praise flows to new stars rising. The playbook's open and so mesmerizing.
Gotta have fun.
I think that, first of all, they're very clever. I like all the genres. I think that's cool. So you can vote for your favorite as of tonight when they go live on Twitter. So make sure you're following. What accounts are you putting them out on?
I'll have it on my own. Maybe Patriots.com will tweet them out. I know you will tweet them out as well.
Yeah. So make sure you're following. First of all, you got to follow Marine. If you're not, you need to be following Marine. You want to give your Twitter handle again?
Yeah, I gotta find it. Hold on. It's QY2289.
QY2289. Okay, so follow him at QY2289. Okay, that's number one. You can also follow me at JR Broadcaster because I'll have those and I'll retweet them out there again. And then clearly you'd be following Patriots.com. Hopefully we'll get them to, put those up as well. But follow those accounts, and we want you to vote. And we're having some fun here with this thing, so why not? See if we can be a little bit creative with all of this. Hey, this week's thing from Bob's, if you need something to do before next week's kickoff, why not get your living room game day ready by playing the Bob's Discount Furniture Dare to Compare Challenge. When you dare to compare Bob's Renegade Motion Sofa with the competition, you get customizable modular design, Bobopedic power reclining seats, charging ports, and plenty of storage for hundreds less than other brands. Now that's a winning play. So stop in and see how much you can save when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. 855-PATS-500, the questions of the day. Still waiting for your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. Aiden in California. John, to answer the questions, the most important player is David Andrews. We saw how it looks without him in the lineup. The Patriots will get 4 wins rather than Zappe throws a touchdown, and the Pats will cover and win outright. I believe we win 28-23. Call me delusional, but got a weird inkling about this game. That's Aiden in California. Good email, Aiden, and I like your pick of David Andrews because he is certainly, I think, the factor in the middle of one of the key areas for this team, the offensive line, that has to be consistently good. He's got to be the anchor. He has to be the leader. He has to be the guy that everyone can lean on, both literally and figuratively. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick, David Andrews. That goes along the lines of what Evan was saying earlier about, he thinks that a guy like Stevenson might also be, the most important player for this team going into this particular season. 28-23, I got to admit, I haven't had any premonitions other than just an overall feel that I think the Patriots make this more interesting than everybody's given them credit for. It's hard for me to take them outright, at least at this stage of the game, until we actually see something. And based on what we've seen thus far, it's hard to see. It's hard to see a lot. But at the same time, I think the Patriots have more talent than people are giving them credit for. They haven't seen anything, and traditionally, it's tough on a new staff. It's tough when you have, a new quarterback, a rookie backing him up. It's tough when you don't have explosiveness, at the skill positions, especially at wide receiver. And maybe they've drafted him. We don't know yet, but until we see it, we don't know. The Patriots' defense is what we thought going in had a chance to keep this team in games again, like they did last year. And then, of course, they lose Christian Barmore to the blood clot problem that he's got, and so that's going to really put the onus on a lot of players to fill in that gap. And then you trade Matt Judon away because of the contract issues, and so you're arguably losing your 2 best players, and then even Christian Gonzalez is back at least, but you're arguably losing your 2 best players on that side of the football as well. Which doesn't sound to me like that's anything really positive going for you going into the season. Again, until we actually see something. So that's what we're all kind of waiting on. We need to see something. Nelson's in L.A. Hey, Nelson, you're in the playbook.
Hey, how we doing today?
I'm good, Nelson.
Prediction for this week, we're going to win 24-14. Patriots all the way, baby. Put the rookie in, and let's stop playing games.
So you want May to play right now?
Yeah, stop playing with him.
Well, listen.
I already seen Jacobo. I already seen another one. We need to see the rookie.
Yeah. Well, I think there would be a lot of fans that would agree with you. I mean,
and I just want to say you're doing a wonderful job. Keep doing what you're doing. I always hear you, man. Call you later on in between the season.
I appreciate you, Nelson. Thank you. Hey, did you want to answer those other questions?
Oh, yeah. We're going to win before Zappe gets a touchdown there.
Okay. And then who's the most important player on the team this year?
This year, the most important is the runner back.
Okay. Ramondre Stevenson. Okay. All right. Those are all really good choices, and I think there'd be, again, a lot of people that would agree with you in that particular issue. How you doing out in California, bro?
Good, hot.
Is it really? Oh, okay.
I'm working in the oil fields right now, so it's hot. You know, we out here in the sun, but it's good.
Wow. God bless you, man. Stay safe out there, will you?
You too, sir.
All right. Nelson in Los Angeles. Thank you. Or in California at the very least. Out in the oil fields, man. Now they've had all the fires going on out in Northern California. I know this summer, because I paid a visit to my sister-in-law out in Sacramento, and they were a little bit north of her, at least based on what I last heard. I hope that things have settled somewhat. Maybe somebody can give us an update on what's going out there. I should have probably asked Nelson before I lost him, but at any rate. Hey, Claire in the UK. Hi, Miss Claire.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Jim Boy. Hey, Marine.
What's happening?
You know, same old. Season is almost here. We can smell it.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad it's here. I know you are. I know you're glad it's here, right?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't have minded slightly more off season just for a rest. But yeah, no, I love that football's back.
yeah. It's time to play. I just, but I got to admit, the last couple of days, and I'm sitting here trying to think, all right, what do we want to really talk about today? Because, people don't want to hear. I think fans don't want to hear when their team stinks. They want to hear how their team's going to win a game. They want to hear who's going to develop. They want to hear who's going to play well. They want to hear how you're going to, game plan or match up with the opponent. They want to hear different things than really we were prepared to give them, I think. And I've softened on that stance just a little bit largely because I think Cincinnati has a history, as we've talked about a couple of times already today. They have a history of starting slowly. And so I think you got to take that with the fact that, hey, it's a new season. We've basically been watching, vanilla stuff, on the field, in the 3 preseason games, and even that vanilla stuff wasn't very pleasing. It wasn't exactly vanilla, that's for sure.
Hey, let's not knock vanilla. Vanilla's a good flavor.
Vanilla is a good flavor, but I'm just saying it wasn't very flavorful what we saw in the preseason. I mean, even you can admit that. I mean, that's
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little, there was a little too much dill, I think, in the mixture, in the preseason. A little bit bitter, a little bit sour, not quite the sweet thing that we were looking for.
We're ready for some chocolate sprinkles.
Okay, that too. Chocolate sprinkles. On ice cream. Not on dill pickles.
Yeah, on ice cream.
Yeah, not on dill pickles. That's gross.
On the vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, okay. But that we can handle. So all right. So are you taking or giving the Pats +9 or +8.5 against the Bengals?
Well, my prediction was going to be Patriots 17, Bengals 16.
So you're going all out and picking an outright win like 2 or 3 fans have done already. Okay. So clearly that's a cover. Okay. All right, that's fine. Most important player this season?
This one's so difficult because I was listening to what the people were saying, and the Andrews one, I so agree with. That's like really, really key.
Yeah.
But even if they don't play Jacoby, even if Jacoby only plays for a couple of games and stuff like that, then he sits. Isn't he maybe pivotal to Drake May's development? So even if he's not on the field, couldn't he be one of the most important players because he's helping May get more experience in the background?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like when I mentioned earlier with Evan. I mentioned that the most important player could be a guy like Christian Barmore, only because he's not in the lineup, and largely they need his presence in the lineup to be consistent, against the run. Now. That may be not giving enough credit to the guys who are actually going to play out there. I can make a case, I think, for a guy like Keon White as well being most important, I think, for this team because of 2 things. Number 1, they've got to put pressure on the quarterback, and number 2, he's essentially replacing Matthew Judon. In fact, I learned today that he actually took over Judon's old locker. I don't know if that's a.
Yeah, I saw that on social media.
I don't know if that's.
On social media.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a premonition or what, but I'm like, whoa, that's significant. So I think there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking to him to perform and to have that big next step for a guy who's only in his second year as a pro.
I think that's why it's such a difficult question, because there are so many new parts and there are so many key parts in regards to the rebuild or the development or whatever you want to call it of the team, that I think picking out one individual player, particularly right now, but then again, I'm not the most decisive of people anyway, which, as we know, because you always tell me off for being on the fence.
Right.
So we know I'm not the most decisive of people.
Well, okay, but that's kind of why we like you, Claire. So that's all right. We know you're a fan first, and I think that's great because that's kind of what you purport to be. But you know, if we got to put the the prognostication hat on and figure it out a little bit, then in all honesty, trying to be impartial as much as you can be, it's pretty easy to see where these two teams' rosters line up against each other. And it's kind of like, well, I've heard of this guy, never heard of that guy. Heard of this guy, never heard of that guy. Heard of this guy, never.
Right.
I mean, it's like that way all the way through the roster. And I mean, that usually isn't an accurate barometer of talent, but it does indicate that if a guy's in there and he's playing a lot, then yeah, he should have some ability. And you're playing a bunch of guys that, have been around in the league and you haven't really heard of much. Kind of answer your own question, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to go with a sneaky prediction that if Hunter is out because of injury particularly, I don't know if Hooper's going to do really well this season.
Okay.
It's my sneaky prediction.
Okay. What's your prediction?
For now. Hooper's going to do...
Oh.
Austin Hooper's going to do well.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay. All right. What happens first, though? Patriots get to 4 wins or Zappe throws a TD?
Patriots get to 4 wins.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. I think that's, honestly, I think that's a byproduct of the largely negative Boston media. I mean, I think we all know, especially one radio station in particular, the flagship radio station for this franchise, which is kind of ironic, but they're over the top negative. And I realize that negativity sells around here, and I've written about this, I've talked about it, I've opined about it. Negativity sells here because of the 86-year drought between World Series titles for the Red Sox. Okay, and so it was decades and decades and decades of futility, where people got used to being hurt. And then 1986 happened when the ball rolled through Buckner's legs, and it happened all over again, and it made it even more painful. And so I think that's why negativity still exists here. You can blame the old Red Sox, even though we've had an unprecedented run of success since the turn of the century, since the turn of the millennium. We've had, 12 championships now? Right? 12? I believe we've had 12 titles when you count the Patriots with 6. We've had the Celtics with 2. We've had the Red Sox with 4, and the Bruins with 1. 13. 13. Okay.
I forgot the Sox had 4.
Yeah, no, the Sox had 4, right? It's easy to forget sometimes because, we hammer those guys all the time about, they're not doing this or not doing that. But 13 championships in this area since 2000, and we're still so negative around here. And I think now it's almost come full circle because we're used to winning. And so it's kind of like, well, how
maybe we can
Go ahead.
start the push to positivity. I mean, now we're in a rebuild. We can push for positivity now.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not even gonna try to push for positivity. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to call it as I see it. If that is positive for somebody, great. For somebody else, that might be negative. And that's the goal here. Because I want listeners, I want readers, I want fans, I want you guys to make up your own mind. I don't want you to decide that you feel a certain way just because I said it, or Evan Lazar said it, or Paul Perillo said it, or Mike Dussault said it, or Fred Kerr said it. I don't want you guys to, think something because those guys, us guys, that we said it. You don't even want somebody to believe the way that you do just because you said it on your own podcast. What we want to do is we want to have a discourse and come up with, some interesting thoughts that get people thinking to help them formulate their own minds about things. And I think it's pretty easy right now to formulate an opinion that the Patriots are not that good. And based on what they did last year, I think they've made improvements to the roster, but they haven't gotten anywhere near where they need to be a top shelf postseason contender. And I think we can all see, two big things staring at us. One, the offensive line. Two, the quarterback. Because we all know that the quarterback that's going to take them, to that promised land is going to start this season on the bench. As silly as that sounds, that's what's going to happen. And of course, the offensive line in front of him, man, I mean, they haven't done a good enough job with that. And that goes back into the tail end of the Belichick era and the evaluation of the abilities or inabilities of some of the guys, that are coming around. That has to change. And if we can get that to change, then I think the positivity is going to take care of itself.
Well, have you got optimism about the new O-line guy that they've just signed to
Davis.
the practice squad? And
Caleb Davis, yep.
Davis, that's it. I knew the first name was Caleb, and I was trying to scramble looking for his surname because he's like 6'9", and he's like a huge mammoth of a human being.
6'9" and 370 pounds is what they've listed him at.
I saw some of the kind of what people call tape on him, like little clips on social media and stuff like this that people cut from YouTube and things.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at how he carries his weight, so to speak, and I don't mean that to sound offensive in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. He was much longer than I was expecting, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I've got to say, going into it, I hope that he gets elevated because he's on the practice squad at the moment, isn't he? So I hope he gets elevated. Really interested to see him in game time. And
I think there's a chance.
Because I think you said.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that could happen.
The show.
Yeah, I think there's a. Yeah.
You can't teach height or something along the lines.
Yeah, that's correct. It's hard to coach height.
Yeah.
Correct. And so he's big. I don't know if he played the left or the right. Everybody thinks automatically, big, sun blocking tackle. He's a left tackle. That isn't necessarily the case. I think we all knew that from Trent Brown. Trent Brown's best position was right tackle, but the Patriots put him in at left tackle because they needed him at left tackle, and he didn't play it all that well last year. So it's not coincidentally he's going to start at right tackle for the Bengals on Sunday. So okay, that's fine. I wish him well. The Patriots still need a lot of help. It's quite possible that the Patriots, tackle of the future is still playing college ball this year. It's quite possible.
That's fair.
And unless New England, comes up with a top 3 pick again, which everybody seems to think is going to happen. I know they're the odds-on favorite to have a top 5 pick amongst all the teams in the NFL right now. But I would tell you that if you're picking in the top 5, you better have a starter. B, I'm not so sure that's going to be a tackle. But if it's not going to be a tackle, then you better make sure that you get a tackle because they need a tackle. In fact, they need several tackles. So unless they've already, earmarked, and pointed out, hey, we know where you can get this guy, or B, we know this guy's going to free agency and we're going to make a play for him in the offseason or whatever it may be. And they should already be having these conversations, by the way, okay? If they're doing their job the right way, these conversations are already taking place. So that's by far and away the biggest need overwhelmingly, for next year. And I think we all expect for next year, especially, that Drake May is going to be the starter. So why wouldn't you want to do what you can to protect him, right?
Yes. Do you think it is easier to get a wide receiver in sort of free agency situation than it is a tackle? Are we looking at something that you would say going into the draft? I know it's like a million years away yet, but if the need is still tackle and wide receiver, it should be tackle priority because wide receiver is an easier talent to obtain.
Yeah, that's interesting. I honestly am not sure. I mean, I always think that free agency is easier, no matter the position, because you've got known quantities and known entities.
Sure.
As against other professionals, as opposed to college guys who certainly know how to play the sport and could dominate against their level of competition. But the level of competition they're playing, unless you're really in the SEC and maybe the Big Ten, you have to openly question it. It's not it may not be NFL everyday caliber player. And again, I'm not trying to be mean to college players because I think there's some really good college football being played at all levels in this country. But I would rather take my chance on a guy that I know I could pluck away from a team, and sign him that isn't going to break my bank and is going to fit into my scheme. I'd rather go with a known entity. Now, not everybody can do that. A lot of teams are diligent at signing their guys, and guys that find themselves open in free agency generally, I think they're flawed. And the reason that I think they're flawed is because their own team doesn't want to pay the money that they need to pay them to keep them. So, and maybe that's a flaw. Maybe the business part of it is part of that flaw. But I just think that, there's a reason why you're able to get that person from free agency. And, in the draft, you've got to be lucky to be in the right spot, the right place, the right time to take somebody. So this is where, your ability to identify talent more readily, more quickly is really important. I think, you really want to get down to the X's and O's. The most important person within any football team right now is the guy who's making the call on drafting and bringing guys in. And if that's the GM, then that's the GM. I think the GM is more important right now, especially for a team like New England rebuilding, than the head coach. Yeah. And so the onus is on Elliot Wolf to get this done. This is where I think we can all agree Bill Belichick fell short in the last few years because his ability to evaluate talent was inaccurate. It just. I mean, he wasn't a complete failure. He identified a bunch of guys that, hey, the Patriots ended up re-signing, right, in the offseason. Yeah. So he wasn't a complete failure, but it just so happens that, their inability to identify talent at two key positions is keeping this team from rising back up to a competitive level. One, on the offensive line. Two, at wide receiver. And it's been a repeated thing, especially at wide receiver. And it's kind of like, why can't this coaching staff figure out what the hell a good wide receiver is? There's no explanation for that. There's no explanation.
It feels like generally when it was Bill, everything was successful defensively. He was successful at choosing defense, at strengthening the defense, even bringing back veteran guys and then working out really well in New England, that sort of thing. Yeah. And the offense was like Brady's bag almost. Yeah. And that got taken away. Yeah. And then things just weren't quite the same. So it does look quite significant that him being a defensive guy, they had the strength in the defense. So it's interesting going forward, semi-depressing, but also interesting and possibly exciting going forward as a Patriots fan, how it's going to evolve from the draft. Yeah. Now, that defensive mind isn't there. However, Mayo is still a defensive mind, so it's interesting to see if there'll be still those traits that come through when it comes to that kind of player choice and player development. Yeah, yeah. I think it's something we will all be looking for and watching for very, very closely. Hey, Clara, you're a good egg. Thanks, kiddo. No drama. Have a good one, John. Take care. Yeah, and enjoy the games on Sunday. Let me sneak this one in here. Kendall is in North Carolina. Hey, Kendall, thanks for hanging in. You're in the playbook. Kendall, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I got you, brother.
Hey, what's going on with John?
How are you?
All right. I got a question. If this year, the 2024 season, isn't about winning, then how are we going to attract free agents to come here in the future? Because we've seen that, just money alone ain't going to do it. Yeah. No. We've seen Calvin Ridley and Brendan Ayuk, they didn't want to come for the money. But what are we going? I know I get Drake May, and I think he's going to be real good. But what's going to be the draw next year? What if we don't even get to see a lot of Drake May this year? What are these free agents? How are we going to make this team better if we're not even? We just want to develop players and compete, but nobody's saying we want to win games this year. Why do free agents want to come here?
I think you have asked an absolutely fantastic question. I wish I could answer it, because I happen to agree with you 110%. If you don't win, how are you going to get quality free agents to come here? And if you're not going to play your best players, how do you have your best chance to win? And if Drake May is your best quarterback and he's not playing, is that your best chance to win? These are all legitimate questions. I'm with you on that one. That's one of the reasons why if the man is outplayed everybody else at quarterback, you need to start him. Now, we've seen over the last, week or so where, even Tom Brady has come out and said, I think he said on Fox the other day with Colin Cowherd, he said that, he's always been a proponent of young guys coming in and sitting behind veterans like he did, his first year, behind Drew Bledsoe. And I understand the benefit to that. But there are other things in play here. And, yeah, I realize that a lot of people believe that if you played him now, you're throwing him to the wolves because there isn't a solid offensive line that's playing in front of him. But is it still going to give you the best chance to win? See, I'm always of, look, I want to win the game that's in front of me. I guess maybe I have more of an athlete's mentality here than a fan or a media mentality because they're always looking at the big picture. I want to look at the big picture. What are we going to be 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Where are we going to be? Mm-hmm. And I think that the sport now changes so much from day to day, and especially in an era of parity, that the only thing you can count on is now. So much can change from year to year that you can't bank on the fact that you're building to you got a 5-year plan. You got a 5-year plan. What if your starting quarterback tears up his knee and he's never any good anymore? That's happened before to people. Look, my goodness, look what happened to Alex Smith and the Chiefs. Granted, they've got a little bit better situation going for them now, but I'm just using that as an overall example. You don't know.
I felt this year that I've been hearing a lot of talk about, well, let's just compete. It's not about win and go lose, but let's just compete and develop. And I'm like, I'm a fan, so I'm like, what am I supposed to watch? Are we trying to win or what?
Yeah. And that's the issue that I have. And I think that's an honest question for any Patriot fan, any football fan to ask of their team. Are you guys trying to win? And, of course, the answer to that is going to be, well, of course we're trying to win. You play to win the game. I understand all of that.
One more quick question.
Sure.
One more quick question, too.
Yeah.
Let's just say we start out 0-4, 1-3, whatever the case may be, but Jacoby Brissett is playing really good. He's not the reason that we're losing games, but he's not really winning them either. Do you think because I'm supposed to come to the game up in Boston, I think it's whenever they play the Jets at home.
Okay.
So I'm hoping Drake May's playing by then, but I'm like, if we start out 1-3, 0-4, which is a good chance, do you think they sit Jacoby, or just because let's just say we're 0-4, but he's thrown 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Well, I would tell you if that happens, then there's no way this team is 0-4.
Correct.
I feel like
after that, then you got bigger problems.
I feel like listen, if he's actually playing the way that you just said, there's no way this team is 0-4. Okay, there's no way. There would be a couple of wins in there, and then to answer your question, no, I don't think they make the change. I think we'll wait until we get further in the season. They're going to look for the right opportunity to make this change. I don't know when that's going to come. I have no way of. I don't know. I'd like to see them now. That's my vote was now, but if they're 0-4, I think they can make the change next month. And I don't think they'll wait any later than halfway through the season. If they don't make the change by week 8 or week 9, I don't think they're going to make the change.
Do you think it's a chance he plays if, let's just say Jacoby Brissett is bad Sunday? 3 interceptions, sacked 5 times, turnover machine.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I do. If you're really trying to win a game like they say they're trying to do, if Jacoby went out there and stunk it up and throw 3 first-half picks or whatever, yeah, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to put him out there. I absolutely am. Because, again, you've got to win the game, okay? You have to win the game. Plain and simple.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Kendall. Thank you for that. All right. Jacoby Brissett has just wrapped up his media session. And for those of you that have been kind enough to stick with us here inside the playbook, I wanted to bring you just a little of that because of the unique nature of his being a first-time starting quarterback here for this season. I know he started earlier in his career. Don't correct me on that one. I know he was here earlier, but nevertheless, for this year, he's the man. So we wanted to bring you some of what he had to tell the media just a couple of moments ago in the locker room down the hallway here at Gillette.
Somebody start.
Jacoby, how was practice today? How did everything go?
Good first day. The intensity of first game of the season is definitely there. The attention to detail was there, so it was a good day. Just got to keep stacking them now.
Has it set in that you're the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots going into week 1 yet?
Oh, for sure.
Jacoby, what specific challenges do the Bengals defense present
Yeah, I mean, I think Lou does a really good job with those guys. A lot of the same guys have been in his defense for a while now. So they understand the scheme. They understand, their problems that teams are trying to attack. And, I think over the years they've done a good job of correcting a lot of those, dating back to when he first got there to now. They obviously got a lot of talented guys. We definitely got to be on our P's and Q's this week.
Yeah, you obviously played them in 2022 with the Browns. How much do you go back to that game and, look at the tape from that one?
Yeah, more so for I guess the defense more than anything. Not to watch myself really, but understanding a lot of the things that we tried to attack then and how then I watched the game later in the year from when we played them the second time. When Deshaun was playing and how they corrected a lot of those things and that kind of like chess match and then even last year kind of seeing some of the same things because a lot of the stuff kind of carries over year to year and then they obviously figure out a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do. So I think I've watched dating back to the year I was there, I watched those two games and then last year's two game a couple times now just to kind of get in the mindset of like how this offense / hybrid offense kind of attacks Lou, and Lou kind of attacks this offense,
Jacoby, getting ready for your first game here this year, and then thinking back maybe to your first game your rookie year, September of that year. How are things similar in how you get ready, and how is it different in the feeling of it?
I think my knowledge of football has definitely grown. Fortunately, I have a week now rather than 2 days to get ready for a game, so that's good. And obviously just the excitement that I had when I was 22 years old, 23 years old, I still feel that same way right now. I'm excited for this week ahead, excited for our team, to go on the road the first week and kind of, make our imprint this year and, what this 2024 season is going to be.
Jacoby, Gerard talked a little bit this morning about your ability to protect the ball. What do you think it is about your game that allows you to protect the ball so well?
I think it just comes with, learning and growing as a player, and kind of, you got to kind of like put your ego to the side. It's like, oh, you can't make every throw, every play. Some of those plays call for you to check the ball down. Some of those plays call for you to throw the ball away and not force things. And, and